Hey everyone, welcome to Exam 1 Review. So Exam 1 Review is going to be, I think, really helpful for you as you start this first legal law and ethics exam. So Exam 1, sometimes this can kind of surprise people, but I wouldn't be too terribly afraid if you've read the material, which includes the book, and looked at the PowerPoint and the videos. You should be okay. However, that does not mean you don't take the time to study as you should. So make sure you're studying, make sure you understand the material as it's intended to be understood, and make sure you study what I'm going to go over here for your first exam. So understand what the term utilitarianism means. What is utilitarianism? It's in one of the chapters that we reviewed, but also it's actually in one of the videos as well. HIPAA. What is HIPAA? What does it stand for? What's the acronym stand for? Let's see. So when you're asking for an order from a provider, what do you need to do to make sure the order is correct? So that's kind of a vague thing, pretty common sense. We haven't talked directly about that, but I think it's going to be super easy for you guys to answer. Let's see. From the perspective of understanding HIPAA, we talked about that. What is HIPAA? What does it mean? So signing consent, we haven't talked about that a lot, and I want to make sure I highlight that. What does signing consent mean? Do you have to sign consent if you go into the emergency room? This is talking about implied consent, and you should remember what implied consent means. So I'll give you an example. If you walk in to get your blood drawn in a lab and you pull your sleeve up, that would be considered implied consent. If you're bleeding profusely and show up to an emergency department, that would be considered implied consent. If you're passed out and you cannot respond, you head into an emergency department, that's implied consent. So that's saying, hey, you can treat me for my issue. You don't actually have to sign anything when you walk. Sometimes you're not able to. So that's what that means. So there's a question on implied consent. What about ethical theory to follow the rules no matter what? What does that mean? An ethical theory to follow the rules no matter what. A civil lawsuit and a criminal lawsuit, know the difference between civil and criminal? So what is the Joint Commission? I highlighted this in a video. Joint Commission does not have the authority to stop CMS funding. The Joint Commission and CMS function separately. The Joint Commission is its own organization that will review hospitals or healthcare organizations and accredit them, but it has nothing to do with the feds. So it can help you with the feds, but it has nothing to do with the feds from the perspective of seizing funding, etc. What is the doctrine of informed consent? Be sure you know what that is. Know what autonomy, non-malfeasance, beneficence, and paternalism, what does those terms mean? What are statutes? Know what a statute is. What is the doctrine of respondeat superior? What is the doctrine of respondeat superior? Let's see. Know what the standard of care is. We've talked about the standard of care for a lot of examples. So standard of care. Know what justice is, autonomy, and beneficence. We talked a little bit about that already, but justice and autonomy are two key terms that are important in this test. You're going to have a couple of situational questions. Make sure you think about those from the perspective of what regulations we've talked about. What about constitutional law, tort law, contract law, and administrative law? That's really important. How about rights-based, duty-based, and justice-based ethics? What are those three things? Another Joint Commission question will be on here. Let's see. What about the branches of government? Executive, legislative, and judicial. Make sure you know the three branches of government, what they do and what they mean. How about durable power of attorney? It's a term we've talked about a little bit. It's definitely in the textbook, durable power of attorney. And these are all multiple choice, by the way, multiple choice questions. Talked about negligence. Make sure you know what negligence is. What does it mean? All right. How about false imprisonment? It's pretty simple. You kind of tell what that is. Someone actually mentioned this in a discussion post when you um, use false imprisonment in a hospital. It could be, locking a patient in a room, or using restraints when you're not supposed to. Invasion of privacy. Know what fraud is, those two terms. There's a lot of true or false questions in here as well. Non-malfeasance, know what that term means. Non-malfeasance. The standard of care, we've talked about that already. Something we haven't really touched on as much as I would like yet. Living will. What is a living will? What does it help with, and why do they exist? Living will. What is living will? So you probably heard about this maybe with people in your family. But what is a living will, and why do we have them? All right. We talked a little bit about professional organizations, but professional organizations at times can they set ethical standards, right? So oversight committees and such might set ethical standards, but professional organizations do that. What is an advance directive? Does it have to be in writing? What does it mean? Advance directive. If you have to, do a little bit of research on that, that's okay as well. A couple more true or false questions, and then utilitarianism we've already talked about. Make sure you know what that is. There's some questions in this test, they're going to ask you a different, it's going to have the same multiple choice answers as several other questions, but it's going to be a different answer, right? So be sure to take a look at that. What is an expert witness? What does that mean? Why do we have them? And that is about it. I didn't review all 40 questions. You do have a few short answers at the end. There's only 2, so it's going to be situational type questions there, 3 to 5 sentences, nothing major. But from my perspective, you're doing really well in the course. I think you're going to do really well in this exam. Don't stress too terribly much if it's a little more challenging for you than you expected. You have time to make up a grade that you don't think is perfect by any means. And the majority of your grade, right, we've talked about this, can be influenced by your paper, which will be upcoming. And we're going to talk about this in the next week or so, making sure that you have your paper ready. I'm able to review that as well, so if you send that to me, I'm happy to help you through it. But that's the exam 1 review, not final exam. We have a while until then. That's the exam 1 review. Be sure to make sure you take a look at all the information in this video. Do your research. Make sure you're ready. You have until Sunday to complete the exam. It's not due until Sunday, so don't stress about that. You have the rest of the week to study, and you have until Sunday to finish it. So it's a week from tomorrow, because I've posted this on Saturday the 17th, so a week from tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate all your effort and time. Thanks so much.